has not gone, how would one cognize it? Actually, the Buddha said, it is in dependence on the mind as antecedent organ and on the Dharma as object that the mental consciousness arises. If the mind has not gone, there is no meeting between the manas organ and the Dharma object. Answer. You should know that the mind does not leave and does not stay. Actually, it is said in the Prajnaparamita, all dharmas are without the nature of coming and going. Then why do you speak here of a mind having an arrival and a departure? Paramartha Sunyata Sutra. It is said that all dharmas, when they arise, do not come from anywhere, and when they perish, do not go anywhere. To claim that they have an arrival and a departure is to fall into the belief in permanence. Dharmas have no fixed nature. Consequently, it is only from the meeting between the 6 internal organs and the 6 external objects that the 6 consciousnesses arise together with the 6 sensations, the 6 concepts and the 6 volitions. Therefore, the mind being like a magic show, one can cognize the minds and mental events of all beings, but there is no subject that cognizes nor any subject that sees. It is said in the Tian Mo Ho Yenpin, if the minds and mental events of all beings existed essentially and in reality and were not false, the Buddha could not know the minds and mental events of all beings. But because the minds and mental events of all beings are essentially and really false without coming or going, the Buddha knows the minds and mental events of all beings. To take an example, if the bhiksu is greedy, he does not receive offerings, but if he has no ulterior motive, he lacks for nothing. It is the same for the mind. If it imagines and grasps at characteristics, it does not find the truth, and, not finding the truth, it cannot penetrate or know the minds and mental events of all beings. On the other hand, if it does not grasp at characteristics and does not imagine anything, it finds the truth, and, finding the truth, it penetrates and knows the minds and mental events of all beings without encountering any obstacles. Are the beings to be known infinite in number? Question. But can all the minds of beings be known completely? If they can all be known completely, then beings are limited in number. If they 6a cannot be known completely, why does the Prajnaparamita Sutra speak here about the Bodhisattva wishing to know the movements of the mind of all beings, and how would the Buddha really have the knowledge of all the aspects? Answer. All the minds and mental events of beings can be known completely. Why is that? 1. Because the Buddha claims to know them completely, and it is said in the Sutras that, among all those who speak truthfully, the Buddha is foremost. If it were impossible to know completely all the minds of beings, and if one came up against the limits, how could the Buddha say that he knows them completely, and how could he call himself omniscient? But since the words of the Buddha are truthful, there must necessarily be an omniscient one. 2. Furthermore, although beings may be infinite in number, omniscience itself is infinite. When a letter is big, the envelope containing it is also big. If the wisdom of the Buddha were limited and if the number of beings were limitless, the objection that you have raised against the omniscience of the Buddha would be pertinent. But in the present case, the wisdom of the Buddha and the number of beings are both limitless. Therefore your objection does not hold. 3. Finally, when it is a question of finite and infinite, it is customary in the Buddha Dharma to reply by not responding. The 14 difficult questions, among which are the finite and the infinite being unreal, false and useless, you cannot make any objection to the omniscience of the Buddha. Question. If the finite and the infinite are both false, why did the Buddha speak of infinities in several places? Thus he said, beings who, full of error and desire, have come into samsara have neither beginning nor end, and also the 10 directions also are limitless. Answer. Beings are infinite in number and the wisdom of the Buddha is infinite. That is the truth. But if a person is attached to infinity, grasps at the characteristic and gives himself over to idle discursiveness, the Buddha says that infinity is wrong view. It is the same with infinity as for the eternity and non-eternity of the world. Both are deceptions and come within the 14 difficult questions. However, the Buddha has often spoken of non-eternity in order to save beings, whereas he did not speak much of eternity. If someone is attached to non-eternity, grasps at the characteristic and gives himself up to futile discursiveness, the Buddha says that he acts from wrong view and error. But if someone, without being attached to non-eternity, simply recognizes that which is non-eternal is suffering, that which is suffering is non-self, that which is non-self is empty, this person, thus being based on the vision of non-eternity, enters into the emptiness of things and is in the truth. This is why we know that non-eternity introduces one into the real truth, but also makes up part of the 14 difficult questions, for, by hypostatizing it, by becoming attached to its causes and conditions, that is a wrong view. Here I have spoken about non-eternity in order to clarify the question of infinity. It is as a result of the infinity of suffering that beings conceive distaste for the length of samsara, but the infinity of suffering is not a thing in itself. Suffering is simply very long. Lohita or Timsamata Sutta. Thus 40 bhiksus from the land of Poli who observed fully the 12 pure practices came to the Buddha, who taught them the practice of disgust. The Buddha asked them, the 5 rivers, Henka, Lan Meouna, Sa Loyo, Atche Lopoti and Mohaya rise and empty into the great ocean. Is the mass of water contained in this ocean great or small? The bhiksus answered, it is very great. The Buddha continued, in the course of a single kalpa during his animal existences, a single man has been cut up and flayed. In yet other circumstances when he committed a wrongdoing, his hands and feet have been cut off and his head has been cut off. Well then, his blood that has been spilled surpasses the amount of water in the ocean. 6b. Likewise, the blood that he has spilled during his lifetimes in the course of great kalpas, infinite in number, is incalculable. And it is the same for the tears that he has wept and the mother's milk that he has sucked. The bones that a single man leaves during a single kalpa surpasses in height the great mountain Pyfeu. A note in the Kirtan says, this is an Indian mountain, and as the natives see it constantly, it is easy to believe it. Thus, the man undergoes the sufferings of samsara during innumerable kalpas. Having heard this discourse, the bhiksus were disgusted with the world and obtained body. Furthermore, learning that the beings of the 10 directions are infinite in number, they felt joy, busied themselves in not destroying life and won infinite merit. For these reasons, the beings of all the universes should pay homage to the Bodhisattva who produces the mind of body for the first time. Why? Because, in order to save the beings of universes infinite in number, he himself uses infinite qualities. As they present such benefits, they are called infinite. This is why the Prajnaparamita Sutra says here that the Bodhisattva knows the movements of mind of all beings completely. Thus when the sun illumines a continent, it goes everywhere simultaneously and there is no place that is not illumined. Third section, outshining the knowledge of all the Sravakas and Pratyeka Buddha's Sutra. The Bodhisattva Mahasattva who wishes to outshine their